Welcome back to PNix Handhelds. This week I've been testing out the Powkiddy V90S, and believe it or not, this is my first ever Powkiddy device. It has been a surprisingly fun experience getting to know it. After spending a week with it, I've got a lot to say, so let's dive right into the short-term review right after this. Hey fam, Swatitu Konkrat Pinik here, and let's start things off the right way by going over what's it like opening the box. It comes with Powkiddy's traditional yellow dominated generic box, and when we open it up, of course, we see the device itself in a protective bag inside of a tray, and when we lift up that tray, we get a USB-C cable to USB-A that is a bit short, so I wish it had been a bit longer, but at least we get a cable in the box. And of course you get a basic manual. So everything is neatly packed and surprisingly includes more than some pricier handhelds. Yet it's not flashy, but it gets the job done for a unboxing experience. So I give it a middle of the road 39 out of 69 points. Now let's open the little clamshell and peek under the hood by going over the internals. First, let's talk about the specs of the device. The CPU included in the device is an all-winner A133 Plus with 1 GB of DDR3 RAM, which will emulate PlayStation 1 and below perfectly reliably, so you don't have anything to worry about in that regard. You get a nice 3.5-inch screen that is a 4:3 aspect ratio, kind of like the TVs that we had in the 80s and 90s, with a screen resolution of 640 by 480. It's a great aspect ratio and a great resolution for retro games, so all of your games that you have PlayStation 1 and before will look absolutely fantastic. The device does include a 3000 milliamp hour battery, which should give you 5 to 6 hours of playtime. And the charging is limited to 5 volts, 2 amps, which is 10 watts. So not a fast charger, not even for most phones chargers that are from the last few years. You'll want to use a charger from 10 years ago or so to charge the device. Or if you have a wall outlet with a USB-A port or USB-C port, you can plug into that and usually it will be the proper wattage for you. Now there is no built-in Wi-Fi, but Powkiddy does offer a dongle that you can plug in, a USB-C dongle that will give your device Wi-Fi. I wish it had been included, but it is what it is for a device that's under $50 US. You do get dual SD card slots, one for the built-in games and the built-in OS Batocera, and one for your own ROMs, ebooks, and videos that you would like to be able to watch on your device. Sadly, there is no 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. There's only a single hinge angle. It pops up, unlike the RG35XX SP that I recently reviewed. It wants to pop up even if you have it flat on a table. So it is what it is. But internals are fine, but again, middle of the road. So I'll give it a 34 out of 69. But how does it actually feel to play? Let's talk about my first impressions. When I first took it out of the box, I felt like the device had a good balanced weight. It wasn't too heavy or too light. However, the shoulder buttons are a bit clicky, and the face buttons and D-pad were a bit mushy, but definitely quieter than other devices like the Anbernic and even the ROG Ally X, quieter than that. The start, select, and menu buttons, super clicky. And it runs Batocera OS, not some proprietary OS, which I find as a big win because Batocera is one of the most famous OSs for playing retro games, so I appreciate that they're using an open source OS that is highly stable. The screen is colorful, clean, and inviting with a fully laminated screen, so there's no gap between the glass and the LCD panel, so I appreciate that. And when you look at it and when you feel it, it feels like a 2000s product from that company that begins with an N. I'm not going to name their name, but I know you know who they are. And that's a big compliment because they made handhelds right back in the 2000s. Now, one thing I wish that a lot of clamshells do have that I wish this had as well is automatic sleep when you close it. However, it doesn't go to automatically to sleep when you close it. So that's kind of a miss on my side of things. All of that said, I'd have to say the first impressions are a fairly decent 40 out of 69. Now I'm sure you're wondering that you've got a feel for the first impressions, but how easy is it to use on the day-to-day basis? Well, with the day-to-day, again, Batocera is one of the best and most renowned third-party platforms. So I'm glad that it's included there for us. And it comes preloaded with games. Start and select equals exit. Just a quick, easy reminder. Give it a tap and it'll ask you to tap it again to fully exit out of that game, quick and easy. Supports videos, music, and ebooks that you can load onto the device via secondary memory card. And for non-techies, they can jump right in easily and have a lot of fun right away. There are 2 USB-C ports, but only one supports charging. Makes it a bit confusing if you're just trying to quickly plug it into charge, because again, if you only plug into one of them and don't look at the device, you may miss that you got the wrong port and it's not charging your device. So all in all, easy to use, but it could have been better. So I'll have to give it a 49 out of 69 for ease of use. That said, I'm sure you're like, but what makes it yours? Is it very customizable? And that's a great question because a lot of the devices I've already covered on my channel have been highly customizable. Well, this is a brand new device and it's not the same as the V90 that it replaces. So you can't use any of the accessories that came with Powkiddy's V90 or that were offered for Powkiddy's V90. The section on the back screams for stickers, but none are included. The part here below the D-pad and face buttons scream for a sticker, but none are offered out of the box or immediately at release. Again, seems like a bit of a miss from them. However, they do offer a leather-like pouch that you can either throw in a purse, backpack, or you can even put a lanyard on it and put it around your neck as if a necklace if you want to. There are no customization options yet, and that's all I can do is rate it on what's available today, not what's going to be available in a few months. Now, when my long-term review comes along, absolutely, I'll take those things into consideration, how it's changed over 3 to 6 months of ownership. But in the meantime, today's review, I have to give the customizability score a 29 out of 69. So looks aside, how does it actually handle during gameplay? And that's a fair question. So let's jump on down to controls. And the stacked shoulder buttons again are clicky, just like I had felt during my first impressions. And I wish that they had taken the space available and maybe used buttons on the top and then triggers on the back. So that way, instead of just having shoulder buttons, we could have 2 shoulder buttons and 2 triggers on this device. I feel like they could have fit that in and it would have still been a highly pocket-worthy device. The face buttons, however, do feel really nice. Even though they're a bit mushy, I'd prefer that and be really quiet. So I appreciate the face buttons. Allows me to be able to play games in the quiet, such as playing in the dark in bed without waking anyone up. As long as I don't need to push the start, select, or menu button, I should be fine since those are super clicky. The buttons themselves, though, are responsive and comfortable to play, as long as you don't mind the kind of the claw hand that you need to develop to play this console if you have medium to large size hands. There are no analog sticks, no R3 or L3, so you're missing some games that require that to be able to play. The crazy thing is some of those games are included in the box, so I'm not able to play those games. Same thing, there are some Nintendo DS games on here that those DS games require touching the screen to start. I tried every button combination I could push and I couldn't get it to start. So it really required a touch screen. But again, they included it. So I'm not sure why they decided to include a game that requires touchscreen to start playing on the device out of the box. But it does seem like it's a bit missing on that and makes it a bit of a miss because you're excited to play a game and then you can't even try it because it won't start the game. You can't get past press the start button type of screen. That means that I have to dock the controls a bit because the games were included with it, but I'm not going to punish them too much because a lot of the games are a lot of fun to play. And again, the face buttons feel fantastic. So I'll give the controls a 44 out of 69. Now we know what it's like to actually use the device. Let's talk numbers. How much bang do you get for your buck with this device? Again, it immediately feels nostalgic as soon as you put it in your hand. Even though I never owned the Nintendo Game Boy Advance SP, it still feels nostalgic just putting it in my hands. It does lack a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, so you have to have Bluetooth. The game list included, as I mentioned, unplayable titles, which makes it a bit difficult to really enjoy the true value of the device because now you have to go through and curate your games list from the included games list. So it seems like a bit of a miss. I wish they would have had somebody actually go through and try all of the games on the design to see if it would fully function without sticks or without a touchscreen. But it is what it is. Can't control everything, right? The screen, like I said, is pretty awesome. The battery life is fairly decent on a device like this. For the price, better devices do exist. but also worse devices do exist as well. So it's kind of in that middle ground. I would say it's definitely ideal for Game Boy Advance, Super Nintendo, 16-bit era, and earlier consoles because those did not rely on sticks. All that is my long way of saying I'd give the value score a 40 out of 69. All right, now that we've broken everything down, let's zoom out and first take a look at the final score. The average score is 39 out of 69, which places it right in the middle of my 0 to 69 grading scale, which if you want more information on how my grading system works, I'll include a link down in the description. That said, let's take a look at the best and worst parts of the Powkiddy V90S. First, let's start with the pros. The number one pro is the Batocera OS. Again, as I mentioned, it's a trusted open source OS with highly flexible framework, which makes it great for a device like this, and then you can even use it on a device like the AYN Odin 2 Portal because it is so flexible. Number two, the great screen for retro games. Games look crisp and classic on it, whether you're using a 4:3 aspect ratio game like a Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis, or you're wanting to play a Game Boy Advance that had a 3:2 aspect ratio, it will still look good with just a little bezel on the bottom, filleted in with like the Game Boy Advance logoing, so it still looks really nice. The number 3 pro to the quiet face buttons. I absolutely love playing with these controls. They're one of my favorite that I've tested thus far for face buttons. Just have the right size and the right amount of mush. And I don't, again, mean mush in a bad way. It's just nice not being super clicky. And I do love that this device is a dual SD card slot device. Not every device at this price point includes a dual SD card slot, so I like that I'm able to mold it to be the way that I want it to be. If I only want to use their included SD card, I can. If I want to unload a bunch of videos and whatnot for long everyday trips, I can do that without any issue because of that extra SD card. That said, of course there are some cons about the device. The number one con for me is the lack of thumbsticks. I would have loved to have analog sticks because again, some of the included games require having those analog sticks and it just doesn't include those. Again, too, I like the convenience of having a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack to be able to play games on the BTS, which is a raised train, or MRT, which is the subway of Bangkok, but alas, that's not possible. So again, you need Bluetooth earbuds to get your way around. Now, there's no sleep mode obviously whenever the device is closed, as I mentioned, which is a missing clamshell feature that I wish they had included. So I have to include that as a con because you just have to wait for the device to either normally time out or you need to manually press the power button to make it go to sleep. Not a deal breaker. I just have to bring up what I perceive as pros and cons to you. And again, as I mentioned, the other one would be 2 USB-C ports, but only one accept charging. So I consider that a bit confusing to the average user because you have to pay attention to which one you're plugging in if you want to charge your device, which again, charging should be something that you can do with your eyes closed or with the lights out and not worry about it. But here you got 2 USB-C ports right next to each other, and one charges and one doesn't. Now that we've gone over the pros and cons, I'm sure you're wondering who should buy this and who should skip this. First and foremost, I think that retro handheld lovers that prioritize Game Boy Advance, SNES, and PS1 games that don't require sticks, and prior consoles as their go-to consoles, I would say they would definitely love this device, especially if they're a clamshell handheld lover. And commuters wanting a portable, nostalgia-filled experience that, and I can't preface this enough, that would be throwing this into a purse or a backpack, for example, because again, when you close it, you're protecting the device in all the important areas. So that makes it really nice for commuters. Now, who should skip this device? I would say modern emulator gamers that need analog sticks or Android support should skip over this because, again, Batocera is not Android, so you are not going to be able to play Genshin Impact or anything that's exclusive to Android with this device. And also, as of today, I have to go day one type of offer. Tinkerers and modders who want multiple OS support options or accessories and fun things to add to it should wait. At least wait for a couple months to see what we get on Etsy and the alike over the next couple of months. And remember, I'll be going over all of that during my long-term review in a few months' time. But in the meantime, I think modders and tinkers should skip over this device for now. With all that said, I'd love to hear what you think of the Powkiddy V90S down in the comments section below. Are you thinking about getting this? If so, there's a link in the description, both for an affiliate link and also for a non-affiliate link if you're looking to buy this. Again, the base price is under $50 US, which is a really fun buy it now kind of impulse buy for a lot of people. So it's that sweet spot where, why not give it a try for $50 and see what you think. In the meantime, I'd love to hear from you again. So let me know down there. Until next time, this has been P-Nick.